Today we've got two spinning reels that we're gonna put head to head in a comparison. First is the Daiwa Sol MQ. And second, we've got the Shimano Twin Power XD FB. You may be saying, Adam, why are you comparing two reels that are over $100 apart? And that is a phenomenal question. Here's my answer to that. These reels are no longer $100 apart. They're much, much closer thanks to a price increase by Daiwa on a handful of their reels effective July 1st. So this reel is now, what is it, $469. That puts it $30 away from this reel. And that means they're basically the same price, so people are gonna be looking at both of these. So in this video, we're gonna go through and compare these reels. It's not gonna be a super deep dive into each one individually. We've already done that for both of these reels. You can check those out right there if you wanna see that. This is gonna be more a direct comparison about the features, the specs, the application for these two reels, so stay tuned. So before we get into any of this head-to-head battle between these two reels, guys, please go ahead and subscribe if you've not done so already. Like 80 to 90% of you guys that watch are not subscribed, and that needs to change. You guys need to subscribe if you're watching this content. So please go ahead and do that. Super easy, super free, and it is a huge help to us. So please go ahead and do that. All right, so these two reels are very similar in a lot of ways, and they're a little different in a few ways as well. So let's start with the similarities between these two reels. So I know I said I wasn't gonna dive hard into the specs, but this is relevant for this video. So we'll start with gear ratio. That's something that's the same, 6.2 to 1 on both of these. So as far as power and line retrieve, it's basically gonna be the same here. The weight, I'm gonna call the same too. They feel identical in the hand. Published, this is 8.6 ounces, and published, this is 8.5, but 0.1 in a 5,000 size reel and in the hand feels identical, so we're just gonna call that the same as well. So as far as the specs and the spec sheet and all of that that's published on that sheet, that's really it. There's some differentiation, other things that we're gonna get to, but let's get into the similarities as far as form factor and materials. That brings us to the rotor. So the rotor here is the air drive rotor. On the Shimano, you've got their MGL rotor, but similar ideas here. You've got a lightweight composite rotor on both of these reels. You've also got foam power knobs on both of these reels. Slightly larger on the Daiwa, slightly smaller on the Shimano, but foam power handles on both. And that really sums up all the similarities between these two reels. So now let's move on. We'll start with the specs and the differences between these two reels. So we'll start with the drag here. So in the 5,000 size, that's what's in hand today with the twin power, you're getting 24 pounds of max drag. And then again, 5,000 on the Sol MQ, you're getting 26.4 pounds. So slight edge on the drag capacity as far as the Sol MQ goes. So next similarity goes down to the spool and the line capacity. So on Shimano's website for the 5,000 size right here, you've got 230 yards of 30-pound Power Pro. On the Daiwa side, you've got 230 yards of 30-pound J-braid. So I'm gonna call that a wash as well. That's not different enough to make you go, one reel over the other. We already talked about the line retrieve, same gear ratio, but slightly more pickup on this twin power. And the last differentiating spec that we're gonna talk about here is the bearing count. So on the Twin Power XD FB, you've got 11 bearings in this reel. Moving on to the Sol MQ, you've only got 8. So that's a fairly significant difference. You've got 3 more bearings in the Twin Power. So now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the features and technologies and see how those differ in these two. So one of the biggest differences between these two reels when it comes to features and technology is the body. So you've got their monocoque body in the Daiwa. So super sleek, streamlined body, and you can see there's like no fasteners showing here. So that's the idea of the monocoque body. So it's super streamlined, less entry points. There's no screws going in to attach the two pieces of the body together. Because those, every time you have a screw somewhere, look at Van Staal, you can't change the retrieve on them. Because every time you have an opening, even if it's sealed, that's still an entry point for water to get into if that seal were to fail. So you remove those and you basically remove that option for water to get there. If there's no hole there, water can't get there no matter what. So that's their design here. Everyone's known that. They have a bunch of reels with this style body. But one big difference here compared to the Twin Power is you've got a Zion V body, which is their fancy carbon plastic material. Either way, it's not a metal body. Super rigid. feels very, very good, keeps the reel lightweight. However, you're not getting a super rigid, stiff metal frame here. But again, this doesn't feel like something that's gonna flex on you at all. However, the Twin Power has Shimano's cold forged Hagane body. So you're getting a full aluminum body in this reel. And the weight difference is marginal. You know, it's 0.1 ounces different, which nobody can feel that. I don't care how good of a touch you have. I don't care how sensitive your hands are with feeling weight. You're not feeling 0.1 difference. So definitely one up here for having the metal body. This is kind of a subtle feature difference, but also on the rotor of the Twin Power, on that MGL rotor, you've got the AntiTwist Fin. And this was something I was kind of unsure of when this came out. How, you know, nice is this to have? And a lot of times you're not feeling that big of a difference. It's not like you have a reel without this, you're used to it, then you get this and you're like, oh my gosh, the AntiTwist Fin is amazing. I can't believe I lived without that for so long. It's not really one of those features. However, I've heard a lot of people talk about this in the store. When you've got slack in your line, let's say fish is, I don't know, let's just say you get a text message and you're looking at it and the current's pushing your bait back towards you. That little AntiTwist Fin keeps line in the line roller. So you really just remove the risk of over wrapping your line around the spool, or getting it caught up under the spool. I've seen that happen to people too. So it's a little thing, I get it, but it's worth noting that this has that little AntiTwist Fin, and make sure that braided line or whatever you're throwing stays on the line roller and doesn't come out. The gearing system is also different in these two reels, and I don't know that I'd call one better or worse, but Shimano, again, it's the Hagane process, so cold forging, but the gear teeth in here are very small. It's got micro module gear too, and you guys have probably heard me talk about this if you've seen my other videos before. In my mind, that makes the smoothest reel because you got more gear teeth meshing together at any given time since they are smaller, so there's more gear teeth making contact. So all that pressure, of the gears rotating from your hand on the handle is spread between, more gears than if the gear teeth were bigger. So that's just basically distributing the load across more teeth. So that makes it feel like, to me, that would be like a lighter rotational feel, smoother feel. It definitely protects the gear teeth since you're spreading that out amongst a bunch. Daiwa is doing something different. This has their tough DigiGear in it, which is a larger gear tooth, but somehow they've still managed to keep it incredibly smooth. So we'll get into the feel in a little bit, but totally different style of gearing between these two reels, but both feel great. And this, to me, is the biggest difference and the biggest edge I think that the Twin Power has over the Sol MQ. You've heard me preach this, it's infinity loop. Look how slow the oscillation is on this thing. It's just, the spool barely floats up and down. And if we look at the regular oscillation that's in the Sol MQ, you can see how fast it moves. So this was something to me, I know I mentioned the line, the AntiTwist Fin, not being a giant groundbreaking feature. To me, infinity loop is a huge feature. So you've heard me talk about this. It just stacks line very close together when you're reeling it. Since the spool is not moving down, the line's not having to jump up and down so fast. It's just wrapping each wrap of line very close together on the spool. And that helps casting distance immensely. The first time I fished with a reel that had this, it was a Stella FK a couple years back when they first released it with Stella. Sight cast into redfish. It was a 2500 size reel. A little tiny 1/15 ounce Z-Man Ned shrimp with 8-pound braid on that thing. And I was overshooting the first 5 or 6 or 8 fish that I threw out. We were sight casting. I was throwing 40, 50 feet past. It was incredible. The casting gains that you get out of infinity loop is crazy. And I think that alone is incredible. And that is a huge hit on the Sol MQ that I think the Twin Power has over that. But back to feel, let's feel what they feel like in terms of smoothness and all that type of stuff in the hand. So Twin Power in the hand, super, super smooth. Feels extremely lightweight for a 5,000 size. I'm not the biggest power knob guy in the world, but this feels fine. I just prefer the T-style handles on reels, up to 5,000-ish, somewhere in there. On the bigger stuff, if I'm tarpon fishing or if I'm fishing offshore, big snapper, stuff like that, I don't mind the power handle, but for the smaller inshore stuff, I really like the T-style handles. But the reel feels great. It's super smooth, anti-reverse stops on a dime. There's a teeny bit of play here in the handle. It's hardly anything, but it's worth noting. It's definitely there. Let's feel the bail. The bail feels great, and it feels like it goes far enough back where it's not gonna interfere with anything. It's tight back there, and I like that little click that it has. So Overall, great feel, and it looks great as well. So now the Sol MQ, obviously weight feels like identical to me. It's got a slightly larger power handle, but overall it feels very similar. It just fills your hand a little more. So if you got bigger hands, you might like the feeling of this handle a little bit better. But honestly, smoothness feels identical to me. If I was blindfolded and had Gamexus, the same Gamexus handle or same handle on both of these reels, I don't know that you would be able to feel a difference just based on the feeling alone. Let's say you were blindfolded and you did that. I don't think you're gonna feel the difference between them at all. So let's feel the bail. Bail feels basically the same. It's got a hard click back. It moves, far away from the spool, so it's not gonna interfere. And our reverse, yeah, it stops on a dime, as it should in a reel of this price. And again, just a teeny bit of play. I would call it very similar, if not the same as the Twin Power. Just a teeny bit of play there, but yeah, I mean, it feels absolutely great and feels very similar in the hand to the Twin Power. So now, which of these two reels is for you? And this is a great question. These reels are so similar in feel. I was just reading a couple YouTube comments of the review of this reel, and there's some people out here that really, really like this reel, talking about big snook on this reel on the 4000 size and no issues at all. So cranking them out of cover, even with that carbon, non-metal body, no issues with this reel. So again, it is not a metal body. However, it doesn't feel like something that's gonna flex on you at all. I do feel more comfortable with a metal body in heavier applications. From what I've heard, this reel holds up and does just fine. So, they're both great reels. I think for big snook, they're gonna be great. In applications like that, snapper, offshore, if you want a super lightweight setup that you can fish all day, both of these reels are gonna be great. But if you're casting a lot inshore or in the near shore type stuff, this is the way to go. That infinity loop is absolutely insane. This reel's only $30 more than the Sol MQ. And if you get either one of these reels right now at tailwatershop.com, through the whole month of July, we're doing 20% back in store credit with every single purchase. So we've got links in the description to both of these reels, but anything you buy on the website, whether it's one of these two reels or whether it's something totally different, you get 20% back in store credit, and everything over $100 ships for free. So if you're in the market, now is the time to make your decision while we're doing that 20% back in credit. Earn your free money. But yeah, to me, with the infinity loop, once you fish infinity loop, it's really hard to not fish infinity loop again. It's an incredible feature. I'm hoping to see this trickle down as Shimano does, and it looks like it's trickling down through all of their models as time goes on and new models come out. Most of them seem to have infinity loops, so I'm very excited to see that trickle all the way down. But that's it, guys. We appreciate you watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Don't forget to like the video if this was helpful for you, and if you have any questions, let us know in the comments below. And with that, we'll see you in the next video.